Hello everybody, welcome back to another DBOG video, and in today's video I'm bringing back a really old series on my channel, and that is the how to properly build series. Who better to start out with than the Majins themselves, my claim to fame when it comes to the Dragon Ball, Roblox Dragon Ball game, YouTube side of things, and why not bring it back? I mean, I love Majins, as you guys know. I make a lot of videos on them. I'm very passionate about them, very faithful to this race as a whole, and especially when it comes to the Dragon Ball games. I actually won't play Roblox Dragon Ball games if they don't have Majins as an available race, because I find that to be boring. I find like games like Dragon Soul to be so fucking lame, dude. It's like, okay, you play as the same, everyone's playthrough is the same, and there's nothing different or unique about it. So it's like, I'm not playing that game. That game fucking sucks. Dragon Ball Rage, the same thing. I'm good, bro. That game is terrible. But that's just a personal opinion, so who better to start out with than Majins, of course. Do I plan on making more videos for DBOG in this sense? I'm not sure. I do have a Demon alt account that I've been playing on, so maybe I'll make one for Demon. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. I mean, I don't know if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, if this video even gets popular, that is. But yeah, I mean, let's start out here. Let's start out with the stats. Now, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of tank builds. I love being tanky because being tanky in a game like this means you could solo all of the content. And the best part is, Majins have super regeneration as their race ability, including absorption. Well, a lot of what I would consider morons would overlook this. They don't give a shit about super regeneration. They just care about the damage stat. Majins have a pretty solid key damage output of a 1.05, which, yeah, that is pretty solid. It's not the best in the game. I mean, Frieza's are clearly better. And they don't really understand. Super regeneration heals you for 50% of your health. That's a lot of health, So the higher this stat is, the more you'll get out of this, right? Simple math. 1800 health. I cannot get one shot by any ultimate from any boss in this game. There's nothing that I get killed by. I have seen players that only have like 300 health get one shot by Kid Buu, Janemba, Dabura, so many raid bosses, and they struggle so hard against them. Like the Bio Broly raid, my friend who is a melee build that has over actually now he has 5,000 melee. He was getting his ass handed him. He could not do that raid to save his life because Broly would use Omega Blaster and he would die. And there's just nothing he can do about it. He would eat the hit and he would die in one shot. Look, it may not look like health does anything, but once you get into the stat categories that I'm at, about 1800 health, you start to notice a very significant increase in what it does for you as a player. Trust me, man, do not miss out on the health stat in this game. Now, what your ratio should be is really just up to the player, honestly. The ratio could really just be, if you want to split your health between your damage, you can do that. If you want to make it to where you do have more key damage than you do health, or vice versa, you can do that. But I recommend you keep them around similar, right? Because obviously the damage is just as important as health is, because if you don't have damage, I mean, you're not going to be able to kill anything in this game, right? It's not like Final Stand where you get passive stats. I mean, you do in this game, but for the most part, if you don't put any stats in, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So, for my key damage, I tried to keep them around the same. Obviously, I opted for more health because I do appreciate being tankier, that I do appreciate doing more damage, because doing more damage to me is not as appealing as being more healthy. So yeah, the more you put into health, the more you get out of super regeneration. Now, obviously, you want to look at the health or the output stats of your race, right? This character, not made for melee, man. I'm sorry, Majins are not good in melee. I mean, like, are they fun in melee? Yeah, but so is every other race. If you're going to do a melee build, do Demon, do Bojacks are probably the best melee build right now. Super strong right now in melee. I 100% recommend it. So, but you want to play into a race ability on a character, which is what makes the character so good, right? It's not hard to do that. So, if you're going to pick this character to do a key build on, I recommend you just play Frieza's if you want to do as much damage as possible, because Frieza's, or also known as Frost Demons, have the highest output for key damage. So if you're gonna play them for the key damage key damage factor, just play Frieza's, But if you like Majins like I do, and you want to do a build, I 100% recommend that you split your stat categories between health and key damage. You could do even split, you could do one every other, whatnot. And for those who are newer to the game and are not aware of what the key control stat is, putting 300 into key control will allow you to use an ultimate without it taking all of your key. Because you have 3 bars, you have yellow, you have light blue, then you have dark blue, and when you use an ultimate, it will take away the dark blue bars, right? But if you don't have 300 key control, it'll take away all of your key, right? All of it, including the yellow bar. As you can see, I still have extra key left over. I know it's kind of hard to see there in the sun, but it's like I can still use a move like a Crush's Claw or Slash and then Chocolate Beam if I want to, and it not be a problem. You know what I mean? So if you don't have any, if you don't have 300 stats in the key control, you will not be able to use moves after your ultimate, and you'll be forced to charge, which could end up getting you killed. Now, for the most part, I have been capable of soloing every single bit of content in this game without any help, right? It is really nice, right? If you are doing raids with friends, you will be an absolute asset to them because you are capable of staying alive. If your friend who is a damage dealer gets low on health or needs to run away because they're out of key or they're just in a bad spot and you take their place, even if you start taking hits yourself, you'll be fine because you'll be able to withstand it, get out, and you'll be able to use super regeneration and you'll be fine, right? This build is so strong. I was able to fight solo pre-nerf Janemba without using the cheese, right? Which if you've watched Bobby and Nara's video, he shows off a cheese where you stun him. I didn't have to do that. That is how good this build was for me to use. For the most part, though, obviously a lot of players will be like, well, it's not, how good is it in PvP? Is this a viable build in PvP? Can I use this in PvP? Well, I don't PvP, right? And from what I know about PvP, the only viable option in PvP is slingshotting. It is, you know, some fucking degenerate method of fighting. I don't know. Apparently losers do it. I don't know if this build's good in PvP, man. Don't look at me and ask me that question because I'm not going to give you a straight answer. The PvP in this game is worse than AIDS and cancer put together. It is not something that I do. So I'm sorry, I don't have any information on that. This is a player versus environment build only, also known as a PvE build, so you can solo all of the content within the game. So if you've come to this video looking for a PvP build, first of all, I'm not sure why you're playing Majins. Second of all, slingshotting is the best method, so just put everything into physical damage and health and you'll be fine. I mean, like, you don't need to try. Everyone just, all it is you go close, punch, and then back up, go close, punch, and then back up. That's all the PvP builds are anymore. And if you do that, fine, that's great, have fun, I don't care. But, you know, don't look at me for that. That's what you're gonna see, especially when it comes to PvP in this game. Should they nerf it? I don't care. Should they change it? I don't care. Will they change it? I don't care. I mean, the result, it just doesn't really matter to me. So yeah, that's my take on that. So if you're gonna ask that down in the comments, that's the answer I'm gonna give you. I don't know. So if you want to play Majins for PvP, go nuts. If you're good at Majins, go nuts. If you're good at PvP, congratulations, you're under a gold star. Now, another big thing with the Majin, obviously, is absorption. Well, a lot of players don't really know how to utilize this because most players will want to absorb another player. And absorbing will make up for a lot of your shortcomings. And because of that, it honestly really helpful. Especially if you are not a melee build. And most players will be like, well, wouldn't it be more beneficial if I absorb somebody that is the same build as me? Well, for the most part, yeah. But at the same time, absorbing someone who is the opposite build of you can make up for the shortcomings that you may or may not have, right? Melee is a very good stat. Agility is a very solid stat, and if you know how to utilize both and you have two kinds of builds or two kinds of character slots that both use separate builds, you know, one key build and one melee, then you'll know how to best utilize it. And you'd be surprised how actually fun it is to absorb someone that is a melee build and change out your loadout on the your loadout down there, your moves over to melee and key, and use a hybrid build of two, because you can't normally do that without it being very bad or very unoptimal for the character that you're playing as, because you don't have the same outputs as other players, so you're going to get their full damage, and it's really nice. It is really nice. So yeah, it is definitely a lot of fun to absorb other players, but I don't rely on that. I don't absorb other players a lot because you can't really do raids by absorbing somebody, and it's usually more beneficial to actually fuse with them using Posara or using the fusion technique, or the fusion dance. So that, for soloing content in an area, I would say that fusion is actually quite good. It is definitely quite good. So if you don't have a private server, it never hurts to ask people in Publix, hey man, can I fuse with you? Or can I absorb you, so that you can go through your quest much easier. Most people aren't really against it, and if you aren't able to do it, then it's really not a big deal, because your build will be usually strong enough to do it without needing to absorb other players. So yeah, absorbing is simply just a plus with Majins. It's not their main gimmick like a lot of people may or may not think. In my opinion, I believe Majin's main gimmick is being as tanky as humanly possible. I feel like you should try to build into that as much as possible with Majin, and I recommend that you don't really sleep on it. And of course, what's a good build without the moveset? Now, for the moveset, honestly, you know, you're gonna hear this from a lot of people, but it's preference, man. Like, it's preference. The moveset that I use only incorporates 2 different stun type moves, one of them being Stardust Breaker and the other one being Chocolate Beam. Chocolate Beam is simply only there so that you can stun the opponent and use super regeneration, and it's really not there for any other reason. I mean, like, you know, Stardust Breaker is simply just cool, and that is the only reason why I use it. So yeah, I mean, you know, and those are the 2 main staples of the build, are Chocolate Beam and Stardust Breaker. And for your big damage numbers, if you are playing with other players, would be of course your Final Kamehameha, which right now is one of the strongest key ultimates in the game and is not really rivaled from anything else. I also use quick, fast acting supers and whatnot. So that's another one that I like to use, is like the Spread Finger Beam and Pico's Drill Beam, because they do high damage and they come out very fast. And I also use a counter, which counters are really nice for when mobs or any enemy uses a rush move against you. You counter and then you get some quick damage in, and overall helps you. So first I'm going to show off the full power of this build with the strongest attack that I have in my arsenal as of right now. A fully charged Final Kamehameha, which does about 107,000 damage. There. Really strong. Very strong. So most things in this game aren't really going to try to survive that, and if they do, which is mostly going to be the raids, of course, and enemies in the Majin Buu saga, they are going to be at least down 25%. Now, the big question in here is specifically I'm going to get asked is, can I solo the Janemba raid? Well, for the most part, that is a skill issue at the end of the day. Janemba is very difficult and it requires a lot of macroing, and if those who don't know, that means to simply just manage your time. That is what macroing is. If you are capable of managing yourself and being able to pay attention and counter him and block his moves at the right time, that is what that means. So if you aren't able to do that, I don't know what to tell you. Now, Bobby Anera, as much as I don't really like his content, he has a video about this where you can actually cheese him using stuns. I didn't have to do that personally. I simply did not. I don't know. I found it to be soloable without. Key moves are just that strong. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, this is probably the best build you could possibly have in a Majin. I can't really think of anything better than this, apart from, of course, like maybe a full damage build. But like, again, why would you pick this race to do a full damage build anyways? Because this race really isn't about that. This race is definitely centered around being a hybrid build between health and, of course, damage. And I think they're really good at it. I mean, like, for the most part, I have seen builds of all walks of life on this game. And, of course, most people only do damage builds because they're generic and can't think for themselves. So, yeah, I recommend if you're watching this video and you were just curious on how to build a Majin and you wanted to make one for yourself, I recommend you try out this build. And if you don't want to do this build, then, well, tough luck for me, I guess, right? As anyways, guys, if you hated this video, please let me know down in the comments below. I read all of my comments, and I appreciate all of the criticism. And as always, make sure you dislike it. I will see you in the next one.